Hello everyone. Welcome to Clasital's IELTS Listening, Matching Question and Answer session. Today we are going to solve some matching types of questions together. How is everyone? When is your exam? We have Jaipal here. Hello. And also, where are you from? You can write me from the chat part. Because you are here, I'm assuming that you will take the IELTS exam. So when is your exam? Rajesh is from Nepal. Hello. We have one from Pakistan. Hello, Mena. Okay, let me start slowly. First, I'm going to start with the question format. In the matching type of questions in the listening, you will see two sets of information and you are supposed to match them. So, what do I mean by that? Let's see. Yes, for example, here you have opinions, one set of information, and you have modules on veterinary science course. So this is the second information. So we are going to match them. We are going to match A, B, C, D, E, F with the questions 77, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So this is a section 3 questions. How do I understand that? In the IELTS listening exam, there are 4 sections and each section has 10 questions. So I can understand that because of the number of the questions, this one is taken from section 3. So it is not that easy. The difficulty level is is increased in each section. So section 1 will be the easiest one and the section 4 will be the most difficult one. Yes. How we are going to solve this question type? First, we are going to read the questions. Then we are going to read the questions like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Like how many times? How many? It depends on how many time you have. Then we will focus on the audio. We are going to analyze the questions and we will mark the keywords. The answer order is important. In the question, you will be mentioned in order. The answers will be mentioned in order in the recording, but the answer options will appear randomly. What do I mean by that? Here are 27 says, for example, medical terminology. 28 says diet and nutrition. In the audio, you will hear these words exactly. They are going to say medical terminology. You are going to hear that clearly. Then the options, these options, it depends on the answer and you are going to write here the answer. Then you are going to hear the exact verse, diet and nutrition. Then you are going to find the answer from here. Be careful about the synonym and paraphrasing. As I said, you are going to hear this verse exactly. However, they are going to use synonyms and they are going to use paraphrasing for the options. Watch out for the distractors like however, but, although, never though, in spite of. They may change the answer in the middle of the sentence. So wait till the end, pay attention till the end until you hear the second question, and until then, do not mark it. As soon as you heard the correct answer, you can write the answer. But watch out for the distractor like the but, however, they may change the sentence in the middle of it. We are going to write the letters, not the sentence itself, but we are going to use the letters like A, B, C. Let's say you have missed the answer. Do not worry, you can predict the answer, uh, and you can guess it if necessary. After when you have finished the audio, you will cross out some options, like for example you are going to use this option A, so you can like make an educated guess and fill the one that you missed with the appropriate letter. Let's continue. Yes, here it says question 27 to 30. What opinion do the students give about each of the following modules on their veterinary science course? Choose 4 answers from the box and write them in the boxes next to the questions 73 to 30. So we have medical terminology, diet and nutrition, animal disease, wildlife medication. Okay. And we have some opinions here. So I should pay attention to something. For example, in here it says Tim found this easier than the expected. So we have another person, her name is Diana. Diana, maybe she thinks the opposite, but Tim thinks that way. Tim's opinion is in that way. Tim thought this was not very clearly organized, so maybe Diana thinks the opposite, but Tim thinks like this. Diana may do some further study on this, not Tim, Diana. They both found the reading required for this was difficult. They both. This is important. Tim was shocked at something he learned on this module. They were both surprised how little is known about some aspects of this. So my keywords are like here. We have Tim, Diana, and we have they. We should pay attention to that one. Now, this is an interactive class lesson. So first, we are going to listen to the audio from beginning to end, and you can write your answers from the chat part. Then we are going to look at the questions one by one. As I said, you are going to hear these words clearly and exactly. Pay attention to that one.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Now we've got to give a bit of feedback about last term's modules. Just short comments, apparently. Shall we do that now?
Okay, so medical terminology.
Well, my heart sank when I saw that, especially right at the beginning of the course, and I did struggle with it.
I thought it'd be hard, but actually I found it all quite straightforward. What did you think about diet and nutrition?
Okay, I suppose.
Do you remember what they told us about pet food and the fact that there's such limited checking into whether or not it's contaminated? I mean, in comparison with the checks on food for humans, I thought that was terrible.
I think the module that really impressed me was the animal disease one, when we looked at domesticated animals in different parts of the world, like camels and water buffalo and alpaca. The economies of so many countries depend on these, but scientists don't know much about the diseases that affect them.
Yes. I thought they'd know a lot about ways of controlling and eradicating those diseases, but that's not the case at all. I loved the wildlife medication unit. Things like helping birds that have been caught in oil spills. That's something I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, I thought I might write my dissertation on something connected with that.
Right. So, actually, I was thinking something along the same lines.
That is the end of part.
Part 3. So what do you think? Was it easy? Was it difficult? Let me see the chat. So what do you think? What are the answers? Were you able to catch them? Were you able to catch the words here, like the medical terminology, diet and nutrition? It wasn't easy. Okay, I see. How about the others? What do you think? Were you able to hear these words here? Like did you hear the medical terminology, diet and nutrition, animal disease, wildlife medication? Were you able to, it wasn't easy? Okay, we are going to, you couldn't find the answer. Okay, I see. Okay, we are going to look at them one by one. A, D, C, E. Almost. Okay, let me see.
Now we've got to give a bit of feedback about last term's modules. Just short comments, apparently. Shall we do that now?
Okay. So, medical terminology.
Well,
Okay, we heard he says medical terminology. Okay, now we are here. Until you hear diet and nutrition, we will pay attention to that part, medical terminology. Until we hear diet and nutrition, my focus will be on medical terminology.
my heart sank when I saw that, especially right at the beginning of the course, and I did struggle with it.
I thought it'd be hard, but actually, I found it all quite straightforward.
Diana says, I find it, my heart sank, but Tim says, I think it was more straightforward than I thought before. So what does it mean? Tim thinks something. So they have like opposite ideas. They have contradicting ideas. Diana thinks something and Tim thinks something else. Only from this information, were you able to understand that? Only from this information, I can eliminate D and F. They haven't said anything about the reading. They're just talking about the topic. Let's listen to it again.
Last term's modules. Now we've got to give a bit of feedback about last term's modules. Just short comments, apparently. Shall we do that now?
Okay. So, medical terminology.
Well, my heart sank when I saw that, especially right at the beginning of the course, and I did struggle with it.
I thought it'd be hard, but actually, I found it all quite straightforward. What did you think about diet and nutrition?
What did you think about diet and nutrition? So now they're at the question 28, but they have opposite ideas and Tim found this easier than expected. Now they are going to talk about diet and nutrition.
Okay, I suppose.
Do you remember what they told us about pet food and the fact that there's such limited checking into whether or not it's contaminated? I mean, in comparison with the checks on food for humans, I thought that was terrible.
I think the module that really impressed me was the...
Okay, for the question 28, Diana didn't say anything, so I can eliminate the options. Did you hear the animal disease option? Were you able to hear that? Let's hear it says.
Terrible.
I think the module that really impressed me was the animal disease one.
Okay, Diana continues with the animal disease, and Diana didn't say anything about this subject. Let me see. I have eliminated A. Diana didn't say anything. I don't know what Diana thinks, so I have eliminated D2, and I have eliminated F. So the only thing left is B and E.
And the fact that there's such limited checking into whether or not it's contaminated.
There is so limited checking in whether or not it is something. So Tim was shocked at something he learned at this module.
I thought it'd be hard, but actually, I found it all quite straightforward. What did you think about diet and nutrition?
Okay, I suppose.
Do you remember what they told us about pet food and the fact that there's such limited checking into whether or not it's contaminated? I mean, in comparison with the checks on food for humans, I thought that was terrible.
I think the module that...
He was shocked. He thought something was horrible. Shock in here, like not like oh, it was a surprise for me, but no, he was shocked because there was something very bad in it. How is it now? Were you able to understand it? E. How can I explain it to you? How about the others? Were you able to understand it now? Yes, I know this is a little bit difficult. Let's go over the answers again, and then we can listen to it again.
really impressed me was the animal disease one, when we looked at domesticated animals in different parts of the world, like camels and water buffalo and alpaca. The economies of so many countries depend on these, but scientists don't know much about the diseases that affect them.
Yes. I thought they'd know a lot about ways of controlling and eradicating those diseases, but that's not the case at all. I loved the wildlife medication.
Okay, now they are surprised that they know little about it, and Tim says, I thought they would know more about it. However, this wasn't the situation. So it makes my answer F. They were both surprised how little is known about some aspect of it. Let's continue.
Unit. Things like helping birds that have been caught in... helping... but that's not the case at all. I loved the wildlife medication unit. Things like helping birds that have been caught in oil spills. That's something I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, I thought I might write my dissertation on something connected with that.
Right. So, actually...
Okay, Tim find that interesting. He was very interested in this. So no, not the team ones. Diana made you some further study on this. Maybe they found this reading required for this was difficult. No, eliminated. They were both surprised how little is known about. No, eliminated. And Diana says, I may have do some further reading on this kind of thing. Now we know the answer. Let's listen to it again.
Questions 27 to 30.
Now we've got to give a bit of feedback about last term's modules. Just short comments, apparently. Shall we do that now?
Okay, so medical terminology.
Well, my heart sank when I saw that, especially right at the beginning of the course, and I did struggle with it.
I thought it'd be hard, but actually, I found it all quite straightforward. What did you think about diet and nutrition?
Okay, I suppose.
Do you remember what they told us about pet food and the fact that there's such limited checking into whether or not it's contaminated? I mean, in comparison with the checks on food for humans, I thought that was terrible.
I think the module that really impressed me was the animal disease one, when we looked at domesticated animals in different parts of the world, like camels and water buffalo and alpaca. The economies of so many countries depend on these, but scientists don't know much about the diseases that affect them.
Yes. I thought they'd know a lot about ways of controlling and eradicating those diseases, but that's not the case at all. I loved the wildlife medication unit. Things like helping birds that have been caught in oil spills. That's something I hadn't thought about before.
Yeah, I thought I might write my dissertation on something connected with that.
Right. So, actually, I was thinking something along the same lines.
That is the end of part.
That is the end of part 3. So how was it this time? Were you able to understand it? Were you able to catch it? Think of it as a practice. This is a practice to you. So when you are doing it for real, you can understand it better. Don't worry, this can be a little bit difficult. Like I'm giving you the tips, so when you are doing the practice test, you can solve them easily. Like, okay, what happened? You heard you heard this one, the modules very clearly, and the other part was in the other part they use lots of synonym and paraphrasing. Especially they are using lots of paraphrasing in the options in the second set. Actually, yes, this is the I like, in my mind, this is the first set of information and this is the second set. Let's continue. Okay, here we have, this is a full part 2 test. Whoopsie. Shoot. This is a full part 2 test. We have some questions, we have some multiple choice questions, and we have some matching questions. First, we are going to listen to them from beginning to end, and I'm going to ask you how many correct answers you have out of 10 questions. Okay. So let's look at the questions one by one. It says, Oniton Hall, many past owners made changes to Gardens House Farms. Sir Edward Downes, so, okay, here I have the keywords, Sir Edward Downes. So when until I hear the Sir Edward Downes, I won't choose any of the options. Built Oniton Hall because he wanted a place for discussing politics, a place to display his wealth, a place for artists and writers. Visitors can learn about the work of servants in the past from audio guides, photographs, people in costume. So until I hear about the servants working in the house, I won't choose any options. What is new for children at Oniton Hall? Okay, this is the trick in the multiple choice questions. Most probably you are going to hear every option. You should wait until you hear the next question. When you hear the next question, you will understand that that part is finished, so you can choose it. Because in the multiple choice ones, most probably you are going to hear the every option. You should be careful about the distractors. First, let's do that part, then we can move on to matching parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 4 questions.
You will hear a guide at a tourist attraction called Oniton Hall talking to a group of visitors. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Good morning and welcome to Oniton Hall, one of the largest estates in the area. My name's Nick and I'm one of the guides. I'll give you a brief introduction to the estate while you're sitting down, and then we'll walk round. The estate consists of the house, gardens, parkland and farm, and it dates back to the 14th century. The original house was replaced in the late 17th century, and of course it has had a large number of owners. Almost all of them have left their mark, generally by adding new rooms, like the ballroom and conservatory, or by demolishing others. The farm looks much as it's always done, although the current owner has done a great deal of work to the flower beds. In the 17th century, the estate was owned by a very wealthy man called Sir Edward Downes. His intention was to escape from the world of politics after years as an active politician, and to build a new house worthy of his big collection of books, paintings and sculptures. He broke off contact with his former political allies and hosted meetings of creative and literary people, like painters and poets. Unusually for his time, he didn't care whether his guests were rich or poor, as long as they had talent. Big houses like Oniton had dozens of servants until the 1920s or 30s, and we've tried to show what their working lives were like. Photographs, of course, don't give much of an idea, so instead, as you go round the house, you'll see volunteers dressed up as 19th century servants going about their work. They'll explain what they're doing and tell you their recipes or what tools they're using. We've just introduced this feature to replace the audio guide we used to have available. I see there are a number of children here with you today. Well, we have several activities specially for children, like dressing up in the sorts of clothes that children wore in the past. And as it's a fine day, some of you will probably want to play in the adventure playground. Our latest addition is child-sized tractors that you can drive around the grounds.
Before you hear the rest of
Okay, let's talk about the first one. What do you think many past owners made changes to garden, house, or the farm? They have one house, the house, and the house. Very good. Yes. I assume that I don't need to explain this. They are saying that many owners made maybe they didn't say that, but they are saying they demolished some rooms, they did some addings to them. Okay. Sir Edward Downes built Oniton Hall because he wanted a place for discussing politics, a place for artists and writers, a place to display his wealth. Very good. Yes, as you can see, they talked about because he wants a place out of the politics. So he didn't want to discuss politics in there, and he didn't care about displaying his wealth, but he wants a place for artists and writers. Very good. 13, it says visitors can learn about the work of servants in the past from audio guides, photographs, or people in costume. C is the correct answer. They can learn the work of the servers in the past from people in costume. So we heard about the photographs, we heard about the audio guides, but in the end, not in the end, actually, like in the middle, the guide says you can ask to people in costume about the receives, about their lives in the past. Very good. And 14, what is new for children at Oniton Hall? Again, we have heard the clothes for dressing up. Yes, we heard them. We heard the adventure playground. Yes, but it is asking us what is new for the children on Oniton Hall. And the guide says that there is an update. I don't remember the word he used, but he says the mini tractors are new. Latest? Yes, he said latest. So my answer is B. Now let's see. Questions 15 to 20. Which activities is offered at each of the following locations on the farm? Choose 6 answers from the box and write the correct letter A to H next to the question 15 to 20. Okay. We have dairy, we have large barn, we have small barn, stables, shed, and parkland. As we have learned from the previous question, we are going to hear these locations clearly and exactly. However, you are going to hear lots of paraphrasing in the activities part. In the second part, in the second set of information, you are going to hear lots of paraphrasing. Try to understand it, try to like consume it so you can understand the paraphrase versions of this. Okay, we have shopping, watching cows being milked, seeing old farming equipment, eating and drinking, starting a trip, seeing a rare breed of animals, helping to look after animals, using farming tools. Are you ready? Let's start.
the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
We'll also be going into the farm that's part of the estate, where there's plenty to do. Most of the buildings date from the 18th century, so you can really step back into an agricultural past. Until recently, the dairy was where milk from the cows was turned into cheese. It's now the place to go for lunch, or afternoon tea, or just a cup of coffee and a slice of homemade cake. The big stone building that dominates the farm is the large barn, and in here is our collection of agricultural tools. These were used in the past to plough the earth, sow seeds, make gates, and much more. There's a small barn, also made of stone, where you can groom the donkeys and horses to keep their coats clean. They really seem to enjoy having it done, and children love grooming them. The horses no longer live in the stables, which instead is the place to go to buy gifts, books, our own jams and pickles, and clothes and blankets made of wool from our sheep. Outside the shed, which is the only brick building, you can climb into a horse-drawn carriage for a lovely, relaxing tour of the park and farm. The carriages are well over 100 years old. And finally, the parkland, which was laid out in the 18th century with a lake and trees that are now well established. You'll see types of cattle and sheep that are hardly ever found on farms these days. We're helping to preserve them, to stop their numbers falling further. OK, well, if you'd like to come with me, we will start.
Okay, what do you think about that part? Okay, what do you think about that part? Was it easier than the previous one? Okay, nice. B. Okay. Let's start then. Let's start giving the answers. Little bit easier, yes, I think so too. Because we are comparing something, you can say it was easier. It is easier than the previous one. For example, D, C, G, A. So I have one mistake. Right? Let's see.
You will hear a
20s or 30s, and we've tried to show what their working lives were like. Tractors that you can drive around. Until recently, the dairy was where milk from the cows was turned into cheese. It's now the place to go for lunch, or afternoon tea, or just a cup of coffee and a slice of homemade cake. The big
Okay. It says until recently it was where they make cheese from the milk they got from the cows, but now it is a place for lunch. You can go there, you can drink a cup of coffee, you can eat your slice of cake, blah blah. So it is a place for eating and drinking.
stone building that dominates the farm is the large barn, and in here is our collection of agricultural tools. These were used in the past to plough the earth, sow seeds, make gates, and much more. There's a small barn.
As you may notice, there is a small gap between like the locations. he says something, then he stops a little bit, there is a little pause, then he continues with the small barn. You can see the collection of the tools we have used before, so now they don't use them, and you can see all farming equipment here. So my answer is C. Well, they are not using them. They were used to make something. Now you can see them. They are not using them, not anymore. So it makes my answer C.
Also made of stone, where you can groom the donkeys and horses to keep their coats clean. They really seem to enjoy having it done, and children love grooming them.
Again, we heard the little pause between them. So, what are they doing at the small barn? Helping to look after animals. Very good answer. Jayapal, you said G for 2 questions. For the 17 and 19, you said G. And in the question, it doesn't say that you can use the letters more than once. So we will use the letters only once. We will use each letter once. In the small barn, they are grooming the donkeys and horses, and kids seems really enjoying it. F. Seeing the rare breeds of animals. Maybe. Asma, if you think that it can be F2, write here F and put a question mark. You can do that. Of course, in the end, you should go there and like look at the answers, but you can do it like this, as I said. Put it like this, GF. Let's continue.
Horses no longer live in the stables, which instead is the place to go to buy gifts, books, our own jams and pickles, and clothes and blankets made of wool from our sheep. Outside.
Again, I heard the little gap, little pause. Stables. It is a place for gifts, to buy things. So it is for shopping. Very good. You can buy like wooden things, wooden blankets, blah, blah, they say.
The shed, which is the only brick building, you can climb into a horse-drawn carriage for a lovely, relaxing tour of the park and farm. The carriages are well over 100 years old. And finally, the park.
Again, we heard a little pause, and it says you can make a tour. For the tour, they are using the synonym trip. So it makes my answer E. Very good. The last one.
Land, which was laid out in the 18th century with a lake and trees that are now well established. You'll see types of cattle and sheep that are hardly ever found on farms these days. We're helping to preserve them to stop their numbers falling further. Okay, well, if you'd like to come with me, we will start.
Okay, were you able to catch it? Yes, you can see some kind of, he says the name of the breed. So now I don't remember. Sorry, my short-term memory is not that good, obviously. but he uses the name of some breeds of animals, some breeds of cows to be exact, and here we have the paraphrases version of it. Seeing rare breeds of animals. Breed. I'm not sure. Let's check. Oxford. Breed. I was right. Nice. Okay, how many correct answers do you have out of 10? 8 is very good. 6. Okay. Try to increase this number. 5. Let's try to increase this number. Have you checked the Clasital's web page? Where are we? From the library. You can go to listening. Let me share you the link. Let's go to practice first. Yes. From the link, you can find the practices, and here, labeling, matching. Yes, here we have 4, 5, 6. So, yes, in total we have 6 matching question practices, exercises. So you can do it as a homework. You can do it like just right after this class. It will help you to get better. So my students, we have a survey here. If you haven't done it before, you can fill out the form. I will be very glad if you can fill out the form. It is to know you better, to make the class still better. So the questions are about you will see. And if you have done it before, you don't have to do it. Yes, you need a lot of practice to do that. Jaipal, I'm very glad to hear that. This is very good. Okay, I will be here for like 4 or 5 minutes for you to use the survey, and if you have any questions, you can ask them to me. I will be here for 4 more minutes. Thank you for joining today's lesson. If you have done the survey before, this is the end of our session. Thank you very much.